First at 9 this Tuesday, the 5th of November 2024. Trial continues. The Supreme Court invalidates Hemasiri Fernando and Pujit Jayasundara's acquittal from Easter attacks negligence charges. Defendants to be recalled to provide testimonies. Fuel feud. Former Energy Minister refutes CPC Chairman's claims of inability to reduce prices due to previous agreements. Says government is not obligated to reimburse fuel retailers' losses. Road to Parliament. With just over a week left until the parliamentary election, political parties and alliances make their pledges to the public.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සොඩයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
Crunchy goodness for hunger on the go. කන්ට පරිස්සම් කරගත්තොත්
අපි පරිස්සම්.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Sri Lanka's premier primetime English news bulletin, Derana First at 9. I'm Tarindu Mahendra, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and from around the world. In your top story this evening, the Supreme Court today invalidated the Colombo High Court's decision to acquit former Defence Secretary Hemasiri Fernando and former Inspector General of Police Pujit Jayasundara from charges related to their failure to prevent the 2019 Easter Sunday terror attacks. The Apex Court ordered that the Colombo High Court trial at bar call for the testimonies of the defence during the hearing. Meanwhile, the Archdiocese of Colombo expressed its hope that the government that will be hoped following the parliamentary election will deliver justice for the Easter attacks.
On the 18th of February 2022, a three-member trial at bar of the Colombo High Court acquitted former Defence Secretary Hemasiri Fernando and former Inspector General of Police Pujit Jayasundara from charges of criminal dereliction of duty and murder through their failure to prevent the 2019 Easter Sunday terror attacks despite receiving prior information. The verdict was delivered without the defendants' testimonies being heard. An appeal filed by the Attorney General seeking to invalidate the relevant verdict was taken for consideration by a 5-member Supreme Court judge bench chaired by Justice Preeti Padman Surasena. Following the consideration of the appeal, the Supreme Court judge bench today invalidated the verdict, acquitting the defendants and ordered that the Colombo High Court trial at bar call for the defence during the hearing. Issuing its ruling, the Apex Court stated that since the incident related to the case was not an individual murder but a complex incident encompassing the deaths of several people, the defendants should not have been acquitted without their testimonies being heard. Meanwhile, the Archdiocese of Colombo called on politicians not to leverage the Easter attacks for political gain.
The
Easter attacks were one of the country's darkest tragedies. Leveraging it for political power is a dishonour and a disservice to the victims of the attacks. We urge all political parties not to leverage the Easter attacks for political gain. What we require is for the conspiracy behind the attack and those involved in it to be uncovered. That requires a fair and transparent investigation. We hope that whichever government comes into power will conduct such an investigation. We should not focus on statements that are being made by individuals who were previously silent on this matter. In order to uncover the truth behind these attacks, we require a parliament comprising individuals who are determined to deliver justice for the attacks.
Horizon Campus 2024 Intake 2. Register now.
Union Assurance. Welcome to Cinnamon Life, South Asia's biggest entertainment hub, where awe awaits.
Sadaharita Plantations Limited, celebrating 22 years of your trust.
Now, former Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara refutes the accusations made by the chairman of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation regarding the fuel price formula. Issuing a statement today, the former minister said, according to agreements signed by the former government, the state is only liable to pay any compensation from the Treasury to fuel retailers, including CPC, if a fuel subsidy is approved by the government and granted to consumers. Yesterday, Chairman of the state-run Ceylon Petroleum Corporation, DJ Rajakaruna, stated that the CPC is unable to reduce fuel prices due to agreements with other fuel retailers who entered the local market during the administration of the former government. He mentioned that the former government had agreed to compensate the new retailers if they incurred losses due to the implementation of the fuel price formula.
Under these agreements, if these companies incur a loss, meaning they exceed their revenue as calculated by this formula, the government is obligated to compensate them for that loss.
However, issuing a statement on X regarding this matter, the former Minister of Power and Energy, Kanchana Wijesekara, stated that CPC functions as an operator rather than a regulator within the industry. He further noted that the pricing formula has been established to ensure that CPC's pricing is cost-reflective. Consequently, CPC has the autonomy to determine its monthly pricing based on this formula, independent of the pricing decisions of other entities. He also emphasized that the previous government did not enter into any agreements with other operators to compensate for any losses incurred from their sales or pricing strategies. The government's obligation to provide compensation to operators, including CPC, arises solely in the context of an approved fuel subsidy, which must be allocated to consumers from the Treasury.
Sri Lanka decides 2024.
President Anura Dissanayake says a cabinet formed under a National People's Power government following the general election will consist of no more than 25 members. Addressing an NPP election rally in Monoragala, the president further stated that government has taken measures to end the practice of paying commissions or bribes for state sector services and urged government employees to join in changing the system. He urged the public to report any such incidents, assuring that appropriate actions will be taken to hold those responsible accountable.
Another public rally of the National People's Power aimed at the 2024 parliamentary election took place in Monoragala yesterday under the patronage of President Anura Dissanayake.
විද්‍යාග්‍රාහී වූ ජනතා රැලිය ආමන්ත්‍රණය කරන්නට පැමිණෙන මොහොත අපි ඊටාම සහෝදරාත්මකව නොවැම්බර් මාසේ 14 වෙනිදා ශක්තිමත් බලයක් අරගෙන අපි කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයක් හදමු.
On the 14th of November, we aim to form a cabinet of ministers after securing strong support. I assure you that this cabinet will consist of no more than 25 ministers. They will be dedicated solely to their duties without privileges. In our country, citizens are often forced to pay bribes to receive services from the state sector. An NPP government will put an end to this. We have a responsibility. If a qualified investor seeks to develop a hotel, it is our duty to facilitate land access for such initiatives. But should we demand bribes for this? Unfortunately, this is how politics currently operate. We have the capacity to generate electricity through solar power. However, currently investors must pay commissions to ministers to build solar power plants. The NPP has already put an end to this era of ministers demanding ransoms and commissions. We urge government employees to join us in implementing this change. As politicians, we have taken the first step, and we ask state workers to end the practice of soliciting bribes or commissions. To our fellow citizens, please do not offer any form of bribe or commission to obtain government services. If someone requests such illicit compensation, inform us and we will expedite the service and hold the responsible party accountable.
Fast track your career from O-levels with eSoft. After O-levels, start your Australian university degree in just 8 months with ACBT's Foundation Program. Enrollments close on 21st October. Call 071 115 1234 for Colombo or 077 011 3223 for Kandy.
Diabetesol, සීනි වලින් පරිස්සම් වන ඔබට අමතක නොවන පෝෂණය. Prime Group ලංකාවේ ප්‍රථම වතාවට හඳුන්වා දෙන land leasing ලේසියෙන් මීටමක්.
Former President Ranil Wickremesinghe says the government will not be able to ease the tax burden placed on the people by reducing taxes. Addressing a public meeting, the former president highlighted that the government would have to recuperate the loss of revenue incurred through the reduction of certain taxes by increasing others. A public meeting of the New Democratic Front aimed at the 2024 parliamentary election was held today in Kalutara under the patronage of former President Ranil Wickremesinghe.
The reality of the incumbent government is being revealed to the public gradually. The people requested a leader who loves the people of this country. Therefore, we must unite to make a change on the 14th of November.
The incumbent government has agreed with the IMF to continue the plan put forward by former President Ranil Wickremesinghe. They haven't made any amendments to it. On the 4th of October, the government sent a letter to an American court. The letter said they agreed in principle to the agreement with the IMF formed by former President Ranil Wickremesinghe's government. What role does the JVP or the NPP play if Ranil Wickremesinghe's plan is being used to develop this economy?
දැන් අපේ අනුර දිසානායක ජනාධිපතිතුමා කිසි වෙලාවක ආර්ථිකය ගැන කතා කරන්නේ නැහැ.
President Anura Dissanayake never comments about the country's economy. I stabilized the country's economy during my tenure. However, the country needs to progress further. He does not speak about your future. He claims that the parliament is filled with the corrupt. He vows to punish the corrupt through the Anti-Corruption Act. But who approved the Anti-Corruption Act? The parliament did. We approved the act within this year. Why would the parliament approve this act if it is filled with corruption? How can a person who only obtained 42% of the votes claim that the parliament is filled with corruption? The government says that the IMF has informed them that any reduction in revenue due to the reduction of a tax must be recuperated by increasing another tax. Therefore, the tax burden on the people will not be eased. Why do they conceal this truth?
Sambagi Jana Balawege leader Sajith Premadasa questioned the government on when it plans to recover the stolen funds which it alleged are in Uganda. Addressing a public meeting, Premadasa went on to criticize the government's failure to fulfill the promises it made prior to the presidential election. A public rally organised by Colombo District Parliamentary candidate of Sambagi Jana Balawege, Iran Vikramaratne, was held in Moratuwa.
Sajith Premadasa's leadership will focus on providing residences to every person living in Colombo as part of our program for the Colombo district. We will also prioritise the development of public transportation services within the Colombo district.
The JVP, led by President Anura Dissanayake, said they would revoke the fuel price formula immediately after assuming power. They said 50 rupees was being paid to the treasury for every litre of fuel sold by the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation and pledged to eliminate this practice. They also promised to implement a fuel price reduction immediately after assuming power. However, what has happened today? President Anura Dissanayake has been incarcerated by the fuel price formula. Do you remember? He pledged to reduce prices of essential goods and food items. Did he fulfill this promise? The public cannot even afford to purchase rice. They once said they would reduce electricity tariffs. However, no such initiatives have been implemented as yet. The Sri Lankan people are still awaiting an answer regarding a statement he made about stolen funds being in Uganda. The interest from the funds in Uganda alone can be used to settle our debt. I'd like to question the JVP-led government and the president on when they plan to recover the funds in Uganda as they promised to do on political stages. Sarvajana Bale leader Dilith Jayavira highlighted that Sri Lanka requires a strong opposition and emphasised that his alliance is not afraid to establish a courageous opposition in the country. Addressing a public meeting, Jayavira reiterated that his alliance is the only political movement in Sri Lanka with a viable future. The establishment of Sarvajana Bale's Ratmalana Electorate Committee and the inauguration of its Election Operations Office were held this morning under the patronage of the alliance's leader Dilith Jayavira.
The NPP leaders were under the impression that the presidential election was a platform for deception. During a press briefing yesterday, the chairman of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation, who was appointed by the NPP, had to acknowledge that the NPP's claims that some individuals is receiving 50 rupees from every litre of fuel sold by the CPC is false.
සර්වජන බලය ලංකාවේ ජීවතුන් අතර සිටින එකම දේශපාලන බලවේගය බවට පත් වෙලා තියෙනවා.
As of today, Sarvajana Balaya has become the only active political alliance in the country. Former President Ranil Wickremesinghe destroyed all other political parties in the country. The last political party to suffer this fate would be the JVP. Neither the SJB nor Wickremesinghe's gas cylinder have any supporters. The public is aware that the country requires a fearless opposition. This fearless opposition will be established by a group of fearless individuals. We are that fearless group. We do not make that claim lightly. We are not afraid to engage in politics at the grassroots level. What authority does a political party require other than the people's mandate?
නිකම් මේ කතාවට කියනවා නෙමෙයි. අපි මේ මහ පොළොවේ දේශපාලනය කරන්න බය නැහැ. ඉතින් සර්ව ජනයාගේ බලය වෙන මොන බලයක්ද?
With that, here's a look at more opinions expressed by politicians ahead of the parliamentary election.
විපක්ෂයේ කට්ටිය දැන් මේ අනන්ත වෙලා නෙන්නේ. අපි අවුරුදු 5ක කරන්න ඕනේ දේවල් දැන් මේගොල්ලෝ සති 5කින් ඉල්ලන. ඔය ආරක්ෂාව උනන්නේ කොච්චර ඉල්ලන්නේ ජනතාව ගැන විශ්වාසයක් තියෙනවා. 100 ගණන් 200 ගණන් පොලිස් හමුදාවක් ඕනේ. බය නැතුව ජනතාවව යන්න පුළුවන්. අපිට ඕනේ රට අලුත් කරන්න. රට අලුත් කරන්න පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට
පෞගිය කාලේ අපෝ වැට්ටුවා. ජනතාව අතර ශ්‍රී ලංකා පුජ්‍යන පෙරමුණ කෙරෙහි අප්‍රසාදයක් ඇති වෙන කටයුතු කෙරුවා. අපි හිටපු ආණ්ඩුවේ සමහර තීරණයකට බලපෑවා. අපි වගකීමකින් කියන අපි මේ සිස්ටම් එක වෙනස් කරනවා. හැබැයි සිස්ටම් එක මම වෙනස් කරන්න ඔලු ගෙඩි මාරු කරලා නෙවෙයි. ඒ සිස්ටම් එක වෙනස් කරන්න මේ රට අප්ග්‍රේඩ් කළා. ඒ වෙනස් කරන්න පුළුවන් වුවමනාව සහ හැකියාව ශ්‍රී ලංකා පුජ්‍යන පෙරමුණ සතුව තියෙනවා.
අපි දැන් දකින්නේ නැහැ රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මහත්තයාගේ අනුර කුමාර සහෝදරයාගේ වෙනසක්. ඒ නිසා අපිට බොහොම පැහැදිලි මේ ආණ්ඩුවට වැඩි ආයුෂ නැහැ. ඒ නිසා මේ රටේ ජනතාව බුද්ධිමත්ව කල්පනා කරලා එළමෙන 14 වෙනිදාට බුද්ධියේ ඡන්දය දුරකථනයට දෙන්න.
Sri Lanka decides 2024.
The documentary Field of Dreams AAG PBL 80th reunion, of which Sri Lankan-born film producer Jason Rajasinghe was the executive director, won the award for Outstanding Achievement in Nostalgia, Short and Long-Form Content at this year's Chicago Midwest Emmy Awards. Meanwhile, Stony Acres Farm-to-Table and Portage County Business Council commercials produced by Jason Rajasinghe's RAD Productions were also nominated for several awards. The 66th annual Chicago Midwest Emmy Awards, which recognize excellence in various areas of television and emerging media, were held on the 2nd of November in Chicago. This year, 2 productions by RAD Productions under the direction of Jason Rajasinghe received nominations. The commercial for Portage County Business Council earned its nomination for Outstanding Achievement in Branded Content Short Form, while the commercial for Stony Acres Farm-to-Table Pizza was nominated for Outstanding Achievement for Commercial Single Spot or Campaign. Stony Acres Farm-to-Table Pizza was awarded the Gold People's Telly Award earlier this year, and Jason Rajasinghe received the Silver Telly Award for Craft Directing. Additionally, Rajasinghe was the executive director of the documentary Field of Dreams AAG PBL 80th Reunion by Discover Media Works, which won the Chicago Midwest Emmy for Outstanding Achievement in Nostalgia, Short and Long-Form Content. For over a decade, Jason Rajasinghe has been contributing to the Sri Lankan film industry through his company iFilm Sri Lanka alongside business partner Anika Senanayake. His film production company RAD Productions USA, which he co-founded with his wife Hope Rajasinghe and business partner Anika Senanayake, is currently producing an original documentary series titled Origin: The Road to Ancestral Roots, focusing on the reconciliation of Sri Lankan cuisine. This series is anticipated to be released internationally in 2025. Former President Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga has voiced suspicions of a possible plot to assassinate her, similar to the politically motivated assassination of her husband, the late Vijay Kumaratunga. She also raised concerns over the reduction in her security detail, claiming that the move poses a direct threat to her safety, referencing past political conspiracies. In a letter addressed to Secretary of the Ministry of Public Security Ravi Seneviratne, Kumaratunga said other former presidents currently receive significantly higher levels of protection. She questioned the rationale behind the substantial reduction in her security detail, particularly given the unique status as the only former president to have been injured in an assassination attempt. Kumaratunga's letter also highlighted that the leader of the current government, who previously stated that they would refrain from elite protection upon taking office, are now safeguarded by hundreds of personnel. Welcome back. The Ceylon Chamber of Commerce says Sri Lanka's cargo clearance delays are increasingly jeopardizing the country's economic competitiveness as inefficient border agency operations disrupt the flow of trade vital for the island nation's growth. Issuing a statement today, the CCC highlighted that importers and exporters are facing significant challenges, with containers often stuck for days or even weeks in customs examination yards, leading to higher operational costs and diminishing foreign direct investment opportunities. The Ceylon Chamber of Commerce says that the economic toll of the delays in cargo clearance is profound and businesses are grappling with inflated expenses due to demurrage fees which ultimately get passed on to consumers, exacerbating inflation. Additionally, prolonged wait times are hindering production schedules, particularly in export-oriented sectors where timely delivery is crucial. The CCC argues that digitizing trade processes could improve clearance times by up to 40%, yet the current bureaucratic inefficiencies and outdated procedures continue to plague the system. Recent calls for reform emphasize the need for a streamlined customs process, including the establishment of a one-stop shop for cargo inspections and the acceleration of the National Single Window Initiative. The CCC highlights that with Sri Lanka ranked 73rd out of 139 countries in the World Bank's Logistics Performance Index, improving cargo clearance efficiency is essential for attracting foreign investment and enhancing trade competitiveness. Policymakers are urged to implement necessary reforms to address these challenges, unlocking the full potential of Sri Lanka's strategic position in global trade. The CCC says that as the country seeks to recover from recent economic setbacks, efficient cargo clearance processes will be crucial in paving the way for sustainable growth and improved international trade relations. The Colombo Bourse closed in negative territory today as a result of price losses in counters such as Melster Corp, Hatton National Bank and LOLC Holdings. The broader ASPI closed 0.46% lower at 12,795.96 points, while the more liquid S&P SL20 fell by 0.58% to close at 3,852.62 points. Market turnover was recorded at 2.3 billion rupees. The banking sector was the top contributor to market turnover, followed by the food, beverage and tobacco sector. Foreign investors closed as net buyers, purchasing shares worth 42.8 million rupees. With that, let's take a look at the rupee exchange rate for the day. Here's a look at corporate news in brief.
Nation Lanka Finance plans a private placement of 30 billion ordinary shares at 10 cents per share to meet working capital requirements. Issuing a statement, the company said 5 billion ordinary shares will be issued initially and subsequently 25 billion ordinary shares will be issued to Sugat Ratnawardana Holding Ceylon Private Limited. The company received in principle approval for the issuance from the central bank, subject to necessary regulatory approvals. Meanwhile, Bank of Ceylon announced the appointment of a new chairperson to the company. Accordingly, Kavinda De Soisa has been appointed as the independent non-executive chairman and director of the board of Bank of Ceylon with effect from yesterday.
And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of First at 9. Thank you for joining and have a good night.
News and information you can trust 24 hours a day. Visit adaderana.lk.